Hello, Karen. So right now on Daredevil Born Again Season 2, we are getting one of my favourite live-action villain portrayals ever, and that is Agent Point Dexter, aka Bullseye. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with this character, he is one of the best marksmen ever. He can turn anything into a weapon. Like, we've literally seen him kill someone with a tooth, kill someone with a toothpick. He can turn pencils, baseballs into lethal weapons. Whatever he gets his hand on, he can basically throw it to 100% accuracy. He's also very good at hand-to-hand fighting and is just generally one of the biggest menaces in the Marvel universe. And so for the past 4 weeks, I set myself the most daring challenge yet. I decided I was going to train like Bullseye. That sounds hard. Sounds really hard. Now, I am fully aware that this character is fictional, residing in a fictional world, and much of what he does is borderline superhuman, if not superhuman. However, I just wanted to see how much I could improve my accuracy, my reaction time, and if I could get close to doing some of the tricks that he does over the course of a 4-week period by training on my own. Now, in order to train like Bullseye, I have structured his program into a 3-part program. We've got number 1, which is going to be hand-eye coordination and reaction time, which is obviously the main emphasis of this program. That is his greatest strength. We also have a strength and fitness section because Bullseye is a very fit guy. We see that in the show, and he's also able to go hand-to-hand with not just Daredevil, but Kingpin and many other people on several occasions. And then we have the hand-to-hand combat section, which, again, Bullseye probably doesn't get his fair dues for because he can go toe-to-toe with Matt Murdock, who is probably the best martial artist we've got on live action Marvel right now. Now, before we start as well, almost all of what I have programmed can take place in this room with the limited equipment I'm going to show you. Now, you can obviously improve on this program if you're willing to spend more and to go to different locations and activities. However, I am just going by what I have structured in this room to improve those feats over the course of a month. Hand-eye coordination and reaction time. Now, in order to start being able to throw stuff accurately, I decided, well, I need to actually find something to throw stuff at. So I found this cheap dartboard online. It didn't cost much, it cost like a few quid. And I set that up in my gym. Now, you can save even more money by not buying anything at all and practicing throwing stuff into a bin. The only difference with that, however, is you are practicing these kind of over-looping shots to loop into something, which Bullseye doesn't really do that often. He tends to throw stuff physically at it, directly at it. So a dartboard is going to be your best bet. Now, I got this one as well because I decided it wouldn't damage the walls of my gym. So to start off, you are just going to go the regular kind of distance that you would to any dartboard and just practice throwing stuff at that. Obviously, you're trying to hit Bullseye, but at the same time, it's very useful to say to yourself, well, I'm going to actually hit this amount of points instead and give yourself slightly different targets around the board. Once you've gotten better at that, you can then start changing the distance of which you throw. So you can take a few steps back, you can go forward a little bit, you can change the angle slightly. You're basically just practicing different variations of the exact throw that you've been doing. Now, obviously at first I sucked, right? I don't really play darts. I've never really liked darts. So I wasn't the best at it, but genuinely, I saw some improvements within literally a few days. Now, how I did this really over the course of 4 weeks was it's in my gym. I train clients in this gym. I would just practice probably 10 minutes every day at the end of the day. I would also do a few minutes here and there in between clients. So I'm accumulating just volume over the week as opposed to dedicated 1-hour sessions. This was working. Like, I was seeing improvements just the more often I would do it. I would even do it with clients every now and then, and they were noticing my improvements as well. Once you've gotten good at that, you can then start practicing changing your throws. So you can change from the regular overhand throw to an underhand. You could do a sidearm. And then we can start introducing some tricks, such as spinning. The more dynamic movements I introduce, such as walking past and throwing it, genuinely the better I got. It's common sense, guys. The more you do something, the better you get. It's just about putting the time into doing it. And it's also, I realized, kind of a bit of an odd thing to do. My clients were like, well, why are you like walking around throwing stuff at the board? And then when I explained that I'm basically becoming this like anti-vigilante guy, it comes across as even more strange. The dynamic movements, what I found was very useful, and I took this from my judo training and my boxing experience, was actually practicing the footwork. Now you'll see here that I'm just practicing pivoting and rotating, and this weirdly really helped. It helped me build up that kind of movement muscle memory so that I could just let go of the ball at the designated point and over the course of, I'd say, about a week of doing this, I've found some significant improvements in my dynamic throws. You also then want to practice throwing at multiple targets, because very often Bullseye finds himself fighting multiple opponents at once, and so this is very useful to do as well if you just set them up around the room. Now, this next part is very difficult to do on your own, especially if you are restricted for space. However, it's something that is almost crucial to Bullseye's throwing, and that is actually hitting moving targets. Now, this is basically the best I could do in this small studio, and I realize it's not optimal. However, it's all I had to work with, and I did see some improvements in this, even if you can't notice them that much in the video. The best way to do this in real life would probably be to get a tennis ball and have your friend just run away from you and you throw it at them. Have them change the dynamics of their movement. They could zigzag, they could go horizontally, they could go vertically away from you. However, like I mentioned earlier, if you are willing to spend a little bit more money, I think that the best translation for this exact thing would be to go clay pigeon shooting. I can see that this would have the best transferable skill for a moving target. And finally, I bought this fun reaction time game online again for a few quid. Now, I've done this over the course of the weeks, and at this point I can pretty much just nail it, whereas at the beginning I was finding it difficult on the easiest level. I like to play this game with clients and friends as well, and it's basically when you allow other people to play the game for the first time that you see your own progression when you are actually nailing it each time. So this is fantastic for improving that reaction time that Bullseye obviously has, because he is so alert all of the time. Strength and fitness. Now, there is no doubt that Bullseye works out, right, and trains hard, because look at Wilson Bethel. He looks fantastic. The guy is very athletic looking and very lean. He looks awesome in the new season, and he did in season 3 of Daredevil. Now, in the show, we've only really seen him do running. We got a lot of that in season 3, so we know that he keeps a good aerobic base. And then we've seen him do some calisthenics, like in Daredevil Born Again season 2, some push-ups in the apartment, so it's safe to assume that Bullseye uses a lot of bodyweight training. It's probably also due to the fact that he is now a very wanted man in New York, so going to a public gym is maybe a bit out of the question for him in case he gets recognized. That being said, I do believe that Bullseye probably does do calisthenics and aerobic training, but I also think that he would do some rotational training to improve the strength of his torque during his throwing movements. He'd also be throwing some plyometric movements as well, because a lot of his fight scenes are very explosive, as well as his throwing, and so these are things to consider. Wilson Bethel also uses the same personal trainer in real life as Charlie Cox and some of the other cast members, and I have seen that he trains a lot with kettlebells and does kind of functional overall training as a whole. Now, this is all pretty similar to the way I train, and if you're interested in this style of training, it's on some of my past videos, but this may also be a good time for me to mention that if you are interested in training like a superhero, like Daredevil, or maybe a villain like Bullseye, then I've introduced the Superhero Physique program on my website. You can download it. It's just $9.99. You get access to my app. Check out the link in my bio if that interests you. Hand-to-hand combat. Now, the show has never really established how Dex is so good at hand-to-hand combat, because he has gone toe-to-toe with Daredevil on several occasions and held his own. So yes, we know that Dex used to be an FBI agent, and so he would have received the FBI combatives training, which probably would have taught him some basic grappling, maybe some limited striking, but ultimately how to detain a suspect or disarm a target. Yet what we see on the show is far more comprehensive than that. This guy knows how to fight. Now, in my opinion, what Bullseye's fighting style is, if he can't throw something at you, because that is what his fighting style is. However, I think that he uses a combination of techniques from boxing and probably judo. For those of you that followed my channel for a while now, you will know that I train in both of those things and I compete in judo. Now, of course, you can just hit a bag, you can practice some combinations on the bag, and you're going to get that good aerobic fitness from it. However, if you really want to acquire Bullseye's skill set, it's probably worth hiring a boxing coach just to learn how to throw at least at pads. Sparring is obviously the best thing. Also, reaction time is going to play into that sparring, so it's going to go hand in hand very well with all of this target and reaction time stuff that we are doing. But ultimately, his main emphasis in fighting is, of course, to not engage hand to hand and to keep the distance, keep the range, so that he can just throw anything at you and kill you before you even get close enough. So overall, I would probably say that I've actually been training like Dex anyway. Like most of my training, if you guys have followed this channel for a while, has always been training like a vigilante, right? Or a superhero, or a supervillain in this case, because I think it makes you the most functional and optimal version of yourself to prepare you for whatever life throws at you. Obviously, the largest element of this, which was new to me, was the trying to improve my target accuracy and reaction times. And it was really fun. Like even just training 10 to 20 minutes 4 to 5 times a week, I saw some vast improvements over the past 4 weeks. I've really enjoyed this style of training, and so I've decided what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep it low key, but I'm going to keep training like this very subtly throughout the week, probably for the course of the next year. So if you'd like to keep updated on that and see if my accuracy improves in a year's time, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, because I will be documenting that once I've done some more training behind it. If you like anything to do with kind of superheroes, action movies, whatever, this is the channel where fiction meets fitness. So please come along for the ride. Let me know in the comments if there's any other kind of characters you'd like to see training based around. Also, let me know in the comments what you guys think of Daredevil Born Again Season 2, because in my opinion, just Daredevil as a whole is just the best thing in Marvel live action, period. And I mean, Daredevil's one of my favorite comic characters anyway, but honestly, the Netflix series and Born Again Season 2, more so than Season 1, are really doing justice to the character, and I'm loving this series so much. Let's get talking in the comments.